Welcome to another Facebook Live edition. My name is Yocheved. For those of you who are joining me for the first time tonight, you are going to be in for a very, very interesting, probably very funny live Facebook Live edition, because tonight I am going to be joined by a good friend of mine who is known. She's a very public social media person. She goes by the name Mommy RN on Instagram, but her real name is Esther. Esther is going to be joining us live tonight, and we're going to get to know a little bit about Esther. We know her as the comedian, the public figure, who really puts a smile on our face. She knows how to make a joke, how to keep the spirit going, and I am really, really excited to having her join us tonight. Now, it's not the first time Esty is going to be joining us. She's actually had a show with us before, with me, Avi, Esther, when we did the Let's Talk show. So I'm very happy to have Esty join us again tonight for another episode. I really recommend that all of you share this live as we're streaming so that your friends can get notified. Because if you have a question while we are on air, we're going to have Esty answer them during the live segment. So without any further delays, Esther, request the join live again. I think you sent me the request. Let me see if I received it. I'm going to invite you. And we're going to wait to join the live. And then we're going to kick it off for a very, very exciting Facebook Live edition. And there she is, Esther Paltielova, also known as Mommy RN, the very famous public figure. I am so honored, so happy that you were able to join us here tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Esther.
Can
you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. We have camera. I didn't realize we can't join on the computer, so I'm making some last minute changes. My apologies. But I see you, you see me, so we're all set. Hi, everybody.
I see you, and I'm so excited. So, Esther, before we begin, for those of us, I can't say people don't know you because you're very well known, but there are, of course, people who don't have Instagram or they don't have TikTok, and they may not know who you are. Introduce yourselves to those followers and let them know who you are, what you do, what your real professional background is, so that we can get to know you a little better, and then we're going to officially begin.
So for anyone that doesn't know, my name is Esther. I'm a full-time content creator. I work as a nurse full-time as well. And I started creating content for fun during the coronavirus epidemic. I was actually off all of social media for a while. I just kind of, deactivated everything for a few years. And I was so bored during COVID to avoid fighting with my husband because we were stuck at home together for the first time ever. We were just kind of doing our own thing, and I started doing these skits that I always found, they were just funny. It was just for my friends at first. And, some people started saying, hey, this is really good. You should keep going. This is really funny. You're making people laugh. Everyone's home. They're bored. And somehow that turned into me becoming a Kamala Harris impressionist professionally. So I started impersonating her, and I just stumbled upon an entirely new career. It's been very lucrative. I'm very blessed, and I've been sharing it on a global level. And I've made a lot of friends in the political world about issues that are very near and dear to everybody. So I found a way to kind of mix comedy with politics, with everyday life, and really before the election, just to show this Sumashevcha who she really is.
How did you figure out that you have what it takes to make her, to copy her?
In my family, if I'm being honest, I'm probably the least talented person. I say that all honesty. I come from a very famous, avlot. My grandmother was a singer. I have aunts that are actresses. My aunt Berta, she writes beautiful, beautiful poetry. They can all sing. My mother Roma Badalbayev, he's my uncle. So, you know, it's in the family, music, acting. Sofa Badalbayeva, if you know, that's my mom's sister. So she still acts, she still performs in Israel. And I think we all have this genetically where we can just mimic, you know, mimicry is big in our family. And somebody on TikTok, I believe, told me that in one of my videos I had sounded like her. So then I just, you know, I made fun of the person saying that because I said, you know, Kamala Harris doesn't sound like that. She sounds more like this. So once I did that, it got viral. And, you know, from there, I just kept going. And I saw that, you know, if she does make a run for office, she's probably going to be a big, really big deal. So I just, you know, I continued with it.
Amazing. And every time you do that laugh, you blow me away.
Yeah.
I laugh every single time because like you really nailed it. And you know, what's really nice is to see like, you know, the politics is not something that everyone likes to talk about. You know, it sometimes can really irritate certain people, but when we listen to you, you bring like a lighter version of the situation and you really, you know, you make it something that we can handle and deal with in a very light note. And I appreciate it because, you know, you do a great job, and I know you're an advocate for many other things as well in the community. I believe you're also a drug advocate. Is that correct?
So drug awareness, we started doing advocating with that a few years ago. You know, I opened my portals, I should say, to people if they need any help, you know, to come and I can, you know, help give them resources. Thankfully, I want to say that, you know, it's been more quiet as of late than when it was in the previous years, but it's still a very big problem. And it's, you know, I don't want to take a lot of credit. It's a very hands-off approach. I just do what I can. I get them to the right resources, but I lend an ear, I lend a shoulder, I lend a helping hand. It's a very shameful process, unfortunately. And in our community, люди как-то боятся, they are afraid to ask for help. Они очень стесняются. And even if people call me, I tell them, I don't want to know your name. I don't care. I don't need to know your avlot. I don't know your background. We were probably neighbors in Russia. Maybe I know Tetriva, Dedyash. It doesn't matter because we're all related, and that turns it into a very large stigma. So, you know, it's not on the forefront of my social media, but because I have the platform, you know, I share my knowledge, and we have amazing people in the community that have resources for these kinds of people, and I'm happy to just lead them to the right direction. So I'm kind of like a middleman when it comes to those things, and we've done a lot of great work with Kaikov Media. I worked with Yuchan a few years back when he was trying to, you know, raise funds to help some of these troubled kids. So it was just a small part of anything I can help using such a large platform. And you know, we were very successful in helping some people.
Very nice. I want to ask you a question. So you still practice as a nurse, correct?
I do.
And the people at work, they probably have seen your videos and your comedies. And how does it feel going to work in that spotlight?
I tried for this reason. The bigger I got, the more I started staying remote because it become, you know, I don't want it to get in the way of my job, and I don't want my job to, you know, also see it as, okay, this is becoming a problem. So I really, you know, believe it or not, I don't share it. If I do meet like new people at work, they have, some of them have no idea. I just don't volunteer the information openly, but I just deal with it. I say very like respectfully, like, yes, like that's what I do. I don't bring politics into work. And the reason I say that is because it's a very liberal atmosphere. And я знаю, что они про меня думают, but, you know, у меня, like, you know, I have thick skin, so I know how to deal with them. I just give them a little, you know, Kamala smile because they know that I'm pro Donald Trump. One thing I will say that I'm proud of myself of is that from the beginning, I was always vocal about who I am for. And there was a time where we were very afraid to say who you were for because of your atmosphere. You don't want to get in trouble at work. You don't want to be judged. You don't want to be shamed. And I was very against hiding that. It's just like hiding if you're a Jew. I said to people, this is how he's not going to get elected. Потому что они это, like, they psychologically made it so that you should be ashamed to support Donald Trump. They immediately judge you. They look at you like, oh, you're one of those. You know, so I know how to deal with these kinds of people because they have a different perspective. Ты их не убедишь ни с чем. Они верят, что они верят. So for me, it's like, I don't entertain these kinds of people, but I always stay true to my power. And, you know, I'm very powerful in what sense? I project and I will debate you. So I don't come to them like, oh, I like Donald Trump because, you know, he's mean. That's their arguments. I actually bring facts. I bring logic. So if they dare get into the ring with me, and most of them don't dare, then I will school them on the stupidity that they spread on social media, what they say, what they believe. They are too afraid at this point. So I'm proud of that. That's a big part of what I'm proud of, that I was able to manage myself and stand up straight for my beliefs, especially pro-Israel. When you know, the pro-Hamas crowd was very big, that was a scary time for me on my social media. I was getting attacked heavily, but I stayed my ground. Sometimes my husband, you know, he'll say like, you're a professional chkanos and you've been able to bring that into the workplace. But that's what I do. You have to fight fire with fire. So, you know, don't argue with idiots. I'm not going to sit there and prove anything to people. I have better things to do with my time. I don't argue with people online, but I stayed firm in my beliefs. This is what I'm going to post. This is what I stand for. I'm pro-Israel. This is what it is. And it went from being so stigma to me finding the right community, to me finding the right patriots, the right Christians, even the right Americans, because, you know, I don't do a lot of this. Like I do it publicly, but it's a worldly thing. So, you know, other cultures, как они на это смотрят, you know, they have the same kinds of values. All the immigrants tend to be more conservative, потому что they know what communism looks like. And они видят, да, они не хотят такой глупости здесь, where the children are supposed to be mutilated, transgenderism, all these things. And it's a very, very difficult position to be in when you're in the professional world in America and you're expected to hold a, you know, because you're supposed to be someone educated and you have to be respected by your peers and your colleagues. So it's very, very important not to scream, to curse, to argue with them, like you idiots, you libtards. I mean, you can do that in some places. You know, if the conversation calls for it, if they get insulting, I can give it right back. But when it comes to trying to hold yourself high, you just refute them with logic. And most of the time they run away and cry. And I found so much joy in that power in the past few years, because the more knowledgeable you are on these topics, the more you realize they can't fight you. All they can do is insult you. So I've used that as my superpower. The more they insult me, the more I know that I hit them exactly where it hurts.
You know, as you're talking, I'm wondering, like, we're in a world of social media, so you never really know who's following you. Does it ever scare you? Like,
Yeah, I
there are
mean,
stalkers out there, right? Like, does it ever, you know, because you're very open and your platform is very open. It's not like your private platform, and you're not targeting only, like, for example, I target mostly Jewish, Bukharian, you know, very similar cultural people that watch me, for example. But you are more international and you never even know who's watching you. As you're talking, this is just like coming up. Do you fear that sometimes? Do you feel like maybe you are at risk for yourself and for your family?
I think it's a risk that you have to be willing to take. I'm very careful about what I post. I don't tag if I'm somewhere. If I'm on vacation, maybe I'll post it like the week that later that I come back. So I'm very mindful about posting things like this. I don't post my children. I don't post where they go to school. In general, my advice is don't post your children on social media, because once it's on the internet, it's forever. You know, you're kind of giving the world access to your children, to their schools, to their locations, what restaurants you're going to. I kind of look at it as, you know, if you're saying you're at a restaurant somewhere with friends that night, you're telling the world that you're not home. So I make sure that these kinds of things are, you know, I do have to look over my shoulder a little bit with things like this. So I try to be very mindful. I'm definitely more mindful now, you know, as the followings grow across my platforms. I have about 1 million followers now. And, you know, it's not just, I'm not just scared of the worldwide aspect. I'm even scared of, you know, sometimes of our own. I've been approached before. It's been inappropriate. Not like, you know, nobody would dare touch me, but, you know, people get too close sometimes. They don't know them, you know, I need to or whatever, but it's important to know how to handle yourself. And it's possible to do without arguing, without fighting, without biting, scratching. And I don't really, if I'm being completely honest with you, I really don't. That's why I don't frequent a lot of places. I kind of stay home, stay in my bubble. I try not to make too many appearances because it gets a little overwhelming sometimes. And I'm not trying to say like I'm a big deal. Oh my God, like, please,
Oh, come on.
cameras, take them
Come
off.
on.
No, nothing like that. But
Followers, that's a pretty big deal right there. Come on.
But you know, a lot of people have a lot of followers. I think social media is like the new age. That's why we're doing this live, because a lot of people don't know how to navigate this attention. A lot of people, business owners, they know that they have to have a social media presence. So I try to be mindful with all those things. There's ways to, you know, keep it careful. I'm not all out there. You know, I'm mindful with what I'm showing, what I'm posting. And I always tell people, like, you have no idea about anything in my life. You only know about what I post. So don't assume that you know anything about me on a personal level, because, you know, this is just an online world. And sometimes people will approach me in like an obnoxious way. And I'm sitting with my kids in a restaurant and I'm like, listen, Kamala Harris is a character. There's a time and place for everything. if you don't get away from me, I'm going to spill my lagman on top of your head. Please walk away. No, I'm kidding. I don't say that last part. But it's important to stand up for yourself. I make it very clear, like, listen, I'm with my kids right now. You need to back off. Only if they are excessive. So what I say is be assertive. I think that's important across the board. There was a time where I was kind of like, a little too shy and like, oh, мне неудобно было что-то сказать. Especially like people, I want to take a picture, a guy will try to put his arm around you. And now I'm very like, if you like the way your fingers are formed right now, you better move them back to where they belong. And that's it. You just have to say it once. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to be crazy. You just have to know how to hold yourself. And if you respect yourself, and then people will respect you automatically. It's about how you, show yourself. I think you can attest to that. It depends on what I allow.
Absolutely. So how does your husband look at this? Does your husband support you?
That's my favorite question.
Yeah. They asked me the same question, but you're on a much wider platform, so I want to hear what you have to say.
Look, my husband is like any other typical Baharian man. The only difference I will say is that he's very supportive. In what sense? He knows who I am. I've always been open with what I am. I've always been a hustler. I've always been a go-getter. I've always been a dreamer. This is one thing that he knows about me, even when we were dating. And sometimes it'll be just completely out-of-pocket dreams. But this is a part of my nature. And his only ask of me was that him and my kids and family are always going to be priority. And I've always kept that. So that is the biggest struggle that I have found, because I have had to turn down a lot of incredible opportunities, getting flown out to Vegas, doing a show here. This was all, in the past couple of years. There were times where he was able to come with me, meaning, we travel together only. He doesn't let me go alone. It's a compromise, basically. I wouldn't want him traveling without me for something like this either. I wouldn't want to travel alone for this. I need him. He's like my security. And it works out. He's kind of like my manager. When we go somewhere together to events, I tell people that's my secret service. He's quiet. He just stands, he observes. But it's good for me to have him there, because for me, it's like a support system. And it's also, I feel at ease. I don't have to watch my back. My husband is with me. So, I'm safe. As long as they're priority. And I have had to say no to a few things. He has a business. We can't just throw our kids every time, get a babysitter and travel. I've had to say no to a lot of big opportunities that are in a different state, like, oh, come work for this radio show. It's a great paycheck, whatever. But I know my priorities as well. So we're on the same page as that. My kids are first. This is secondary. It's my dream, and you have to really, really go for it if you go for something like this. But family is first. So I make sure that my kids are taken care of. He's fed, he's clean, clothes are washed, but I manage my time correctly. So I don't do a lot of things that maybe other people are doing. I really, really don't find a lot of time for too much self-care. I don't really socialize that much. I don't watch any TV. It's kind of like a rule I have. If I'm going to do social media, I can't do TV. There's not enough time. I don't have time to, sit there and just kind of scroll on Netflix. Can't remember the last show that I watched. It was probably years. But that's allowed me to kind of go after what I want, still have my job, and still make sure that everybody at home is doing well. Now, am I saying this as like I'm a superstar? Absolutely not. I always say that, if I'm doing really well on social media, so if I had like 3 radio shows that week and I killed them all, knocked them out of the park, I wrote amazing scripts for them, I went on Gutfeld, I killed the debate, and I do a lot of things that you guys don't even know about because I don't post about it. It's just too much. But when I'm doing those really crazy weeks where they are just jam-packed, action-packed, they're very lucrative, I'm failing somewhere at home. So I forgot to, check a homework assignment. The laundry is in the wash and I forgot to put it in the dryer. So I have to rewash it. Shabbat dinner, like my mom says, and I'm like, Mom, I couldn't, I was busy, but I get it done. I'm the kind of person, you can sense by my speed of which I speak, because I speak so fast. My father-in-law, he'll look at me like this and I'll end the sentence and it'll be like for 15 minutes and he goes, so I speak very quickly, I move very quickly, but I have to make sure that I make time and I make sure that I get it done. But if I am getting it done, sometimes it's sloppier. Like I said, if I'm failing in this aspect of my life, I'm probably exceeding in this aspect. And then when I'm exceeding being a mom and taking extra care or having a date night with my husband, then I probably had to say no to a really, really big opportunity. So you're going to have to juggle it. And I stopped being disappointed with that. I used to get really upset when I was like unable to do some things. Like I got an invite to Mar-a-Lago for a movie premiere the week of the election. I wanted to go so badly. I would have been in the room with Donald Trump. There was all these people. It would have been a phenomenal networking, experience for me. And I had really big names reaching out to me like, hey, am I going to see you there? Let's go, whatever. And we just couldn't swing it. And I said, you know what? It's okay. There's going to be more opportunities. It's fine. But at least I was home. I'm with my kids, so you just have to make it work. You have to sacrifice. But it's something that's why people give up. I think one of the questions you were probably going to ask me is like, did you ever want to give up? Absolutely. Especially when I've had to say no to some really, really, big invitations. But it keeps me going. That's like, look how far I've come, because I look back sometimes, like I have this thing that I do that nobody actually knows. I scroll all the way down to like when I first started, which was 4 years ago. And the quality of the videos is disgusting. There's mistakes. I look off in some of them. Even the Kamala Harris impression, it was horrifying in the beginning. I don't know what I was thinking posting those videos. But that progress, I learned, is how I even got here. So it's important to own the process. And I'm very proud of that, because I'm not a professional. This was not a professional thing. A lot of it was fake it till you make it. I walked into some of these studios like I own the place. And that's exactly the mindset you have to succeed in these places. So, there's definitely been good days and bad days. But with juggling, it's possible. If you juggle it and if you're okay with disappointment once in a while, it's okay.
So I had other questions, but we're going to take a step back from this right now. Couple of things come to mind. The first thing is as follows. As you were talking, you said, I don't socialize much. And as you're talking, I find it, and we're going to go a little bit away from the public figure aspect of your Instagram, but I think people who are watching, right, what they don't realize, and correct me if I'm wrong, like, for example, you, me, other people who are on social media, we come across as very social butterflies, right? We could talk and we could make a show and we could create content. But tell me if you can relate to this. When I am out and about and I'm in a public setting and there's a party going on, for example, my husband, who's not a public figure, he's socializing and he's having the time of his life and he's all over the place and he could sit there for hours. Me, I'm like, okay, when is this thing over?
I 1000% relate. Sometimes people they probably think I'm rude because they will approach me, and I have a very resting bitch face when I'm an extroverted introvert. All right. So I'm a Cancer, first of all. We're very sensitive. We feel energies, and I am very extroverted with people I feel safe with. I tend to actually not go towards strangers, but people assume I'm very approachable because I am friendly. And sometimes I get some,
I do
negative
we're
feedback.
going to be similar in that aspect, and I'm not a Cancer, I'm a Virgo.
But in that aspect, yeah, we're very similar. And so, I always deal with that.
People have a misconception.
100%.
So even though we have people who are on the public figure status seem to be very social, it's true, right? Like when you are out and about, and naturally, it's not because we're social media people, it's like naturally, character-wise, you kind of don't mind being with your own company. Even though you like being amongst people, you're not like, for example, I can see people at a party going and hugging everyone and taking pictures of everyone and just like randomly approaching. Would you say that you're totally fine just sitting in your own corner and being okay not doing that?
100%. And most Saturday nights, that's what I do. My Saturday night ritual, I don't go out. I like to read a book with a blanket. Sometimes I'll have a glass of wine, a cup of tea. And that's my ritual because I need my social battery is too drained because of social media. So I'm talking most of the time with a camera, with people, writing, editing, plus work, my children. I'm so overstimulated with how much is demanded of me that when I do go out and when I do see a bunch of people, I genuinely try to hide. And it's hard because, people recognize you, they come up to you, they want to talk to you. So I'm not, when I walk into the party or when I walk into a restaurant, I don't say like, look at me, party's here. I'm actually like trying to, I come in like one of these like, okay, get me out of here, like whatever, because sometimes you don't like it, all eyes on you. And also, you want to keep your children safe. And you don't even know how many times where I've tried to like say something to my husband or to my kids and like I'll turn around and I say something and I see like 18 owls like this, just like watching or listening to the conversation, and I'm like, oh my God, like there's no privacy over here. So you have to kind of be okay with sacrificing that if you're in the social media, you know, it comes with the territory. I can't sit there and complain about it. That's why I like to go to places that maybe I won't see many people. It's funny you mentioned this. So I went to Paprika the other night and we thought like, oh, you know, it's dark
I
in
saw
there.
those pictures. I saw
But
people
I
coming
met
out.
some of the most phenomenal ladies in our, not met, I just ran into some of the most phenomenal ladies in our community. And I did meet some new people. And we had a great time. And that was one night that I didn't mind kind of, you know, because we were drinking. And this was actually a girls' night to celebrate a social media thing that I did with Beauty MD. Shout out to Beauty MD, to Milana and Marina. We had so much fun doing a video for her business. So we just decided to go out. They talked me into it. And I was telling them too, like, no, I don't want to go out. Like, I don't do that. You know, it's very rare, far and few in between. But this was a celebration that Donald Trump won. And I was like, okay, I'll come out because the election's finally over and, you know, I need a night out. So we had a great time. So I guess, you know, pa настроению, also where you are. And it depends who you're with as well. So when I'm with my husband, I find it funny because I guess, I don't know what face he makes to people, but nobody dares or he speaks to me extra
Oh,
when we're together with our family because maybe he makes a face like, you know, stay in that
back off.
corner. No, like, you know, just does one of those. I'm kidding, thanks. But you know, yeah, I mean, you. But I agree with you wholeheartedly. Most of the time, if I am somewhere, I try to stay quiet because, like I said, I'm just overstimulated already with all of the conversations, and you know, sometimes you just want to kind of be alone with your own company, with your own vibe. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So I no longer apologize for that. You know, I'm very much unapologetic. You know, what I do, what I choose to do with my time, who I spend my time with. I keep my circle small. And I think that's very important because if you want to succeed, you have to kind of make sure you keep certain things to yourself. You know, you can't just be so loud out and about. You're kind of inviting all different kinds of energies to penetrate you as well. So you have to be mindful of your space, your personal space. It's very important because that's how people get burned out. We see it like in Hollywood. We see these people. What happened to them? They had mental breakdowns because that lack of privacy can kill somebody. It can drive them crazy. So it's very important to make sure that you take care of yourself. You know, you do self-care. I know for you, I remember you always say you always find time to do your nails. I always think of you when I get a, you know, when I get a feeling. And I just think it's very important to protect your space. Yeah. So it really depends.
Do you feel like ever since you became that public figure, there were people in your life who kind of backed away from you or didn't really accept you for being you? Or would you say it's the other way around? They started to be closer than ever because of your status?
Absolutely both. So, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and say, I mean, we all face it, we all deal with it, but you know, jealousy comes in all different kinds of forms and ways. Sadly, and it's not just our community. I think it exists everywhere. It exists across the board. People don't want, you know, I say it like this: people don't mind seeing somebody win, but they will mind seeing somebody doing better than them. So, for some reason, what I've discovered is that the unknown, for some reason, irritates people. Like, what do you mean? Well, you're getting paid for this? Well, what is this? What are you doing? What are you trying to be? And it's like almost like it's irritating them. And I stopped looking at it like, whoa, you know, like calm down with that energy. I realized that, you know, sometimes if people don't understand what it is, or they themselves never thought of it, or they assumed like, oh, this is impossible to do this. You know, for them, they set that limitation in their own mind. So they can't project it on me because I don't live my standards that way. I know what I'm capable of. I've had to step away from a lot of negative people in my life that, what's happening? Why am I being celebrated?
I don't know. I don't know who's doing this.
Facebook is so weird. Yeah, it just randomly just gave a fireworks.
I've never saw this before. That's hysterical.
Yeah, so I was like, am I seeing things? Oh my goodness. Okay.
No,
So I had to step away from a lot of negative people, unfortunately, but I did that also to protect my space. And, you know, if somebody doesn't understand it, I'm not going to sit there and explain it. And the opposite is true as well. Some people felt, you know, what is this? They don't understand it. They assume like, no, you're a mom. You shouldn't be doing things like this. And I never sat there and tried to understand why they were so negative about it. In my mind, I feel like, я никому не должна оправдываться. I'm a grown adult. I'm not taking off my clothes on the internet. That's not even, you know, in the realm of what I'm doing. So to be judged that harshly of like, you're a mother, what are you doing? It's funny to me because that conversation changed very quickly when I started seeing success, because those same people ran back around like, oh my God, you know, we should hang out and have coffee. So I'm very careful about those kinds of people because I don't need people like that around my life. I'm not looking for new friends. I need my family. And like I said, I have a very, very small circle that, you know, that I hang around with and I choose to hang around with. And it's very important to keep it that way, because negative energy can absolutely destroy somebody and they can bring you down. Negative energy is very powerful, but it's only as powerful as the power you give it. So if I chose to hang around a bad crowd, or girls that really don't have a lot going for themselves, but they just want to mooch off of you, or they want to, you know, suck your aura or get information out of you, or for them it's like a social cadence, I just don't mess around with that, because as a mom, and I'm sure you agree with this, у нас уже другие понятия. Like, I'm a mother, I don't have time for this garbage. I'm not interested of gossip. I don't want to know about who bought what house. I don't care about who's getting divorced. Talk to me about the world. Talk to me about politics. Talk to me about what we're going to do to get Donald Trump back into the office. Talk to me about how we're going to keep Israel alive. Talk to me about serious things. So if you direct all your energy around really serious things like that, then that's the energy that you will attract to yourself. Whereas if I wanted to party and show off and, you know, be around a bunch of vultures that, you know, are just all about the popularity and, oh, let's go out, you know, influencers, that's just never been me. I never even kind of entered into that world. So there's definitely people that stepped away from me, but I think that I was probably one of the biggest, what's the word I'm trying to use? I was the one that initiated, like, I stepped away from a lot of negative people. There's just some people that don't understand. And I will go the extra mile and say there's some people that tried to create, you know, problems in my Shalom Bayit. Like, it was not enough for them to be irritated with what I was doing. It wasn't enough for them to tell me that it bothered them. You know, like, you told me how you feel. Fine, great. I don't give a shit about your opinion. But they went the extra mile and went to my husband and said, how can you let this? Listen, I'm sorry, your wife is not capable of shit, but that doesn't mean that I'm not, you know, capable. Not all bitches are created equal. I'm sorry for saying that. I won't curse again, I promise. So this is just the way it is in the world. And I don't associate myself with those kind of people. Did you ever see that really popular video? I don't know what, I think she was Lithuanian, but it was like a meme, and she goes, block, 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 block. Block, block. So she was saying it in like a different language of how, like, if people disrupt your peace, that's what I did. Any person that tried to get in my way, to get in my Shalom Bayit's way, even down to a relative, I don't care. My block list is longer than Donald Trump's felony list. Okay, it's ridiculous how long, and I don't care. I make no apologies for it. If you're in my way, I will remove you from my way to get to my destination. You're not going to cause problems for me and my family. You're not going to cause problems between me and the road that I'm going on. And I think it takes a very strong person to be able to do things like that, because I've gotten a lot of backlash for blocking certain people. But it was necessary to not only protect my marriage, my Shalom Bayit, but my own peace. Your misery is none of my business. And your opinion of me, however negative it may be, you know, because you yourself couldn't accomplish something in life. I don't know what the reasons are, but I chose to remove myself entirely. I'm not going to explain myself. I'm not going to, you know, and I did at first. This is all from like trial and error. I'm in my 4th year now of being in the public eye, of a big public eye. And in the beginning, I wasted so much energy explaining myself, trying to make these people understand, fighting with my husband, allowing these people to penetrate my marriage and allowing them to make us fight amongst each other. It slowly became like a realization thing. Like, listen, you cannot waste your time giving these people any energy. It was draining. I had no actual energy left to chase the dreams that I was defending. You know what I mean?
As you're talking, a couple of things are coming to mind. I don't even know where to begin. First of all, I'm not seeing any comments popping up. So for all of you that are watching, please say something so that we know you're here, you're with us. So let the comments come. If you have any particular questions, any topics you want us to touch upon, get those comments in, because I want you to interact while we're on live. But a few things as you were talking. Number one, so you see, we're talking about the social media part of it. Now, obviously, people who are watching, a very small percentage of them are on social media. Now, let's talk about the real world, okay? Real world, 2 things. Let's start with problem number 1. And then remind me to get to problem number 2 if we don't get off topic. We're talking about the real world where people will come to your husband and do Jangan Lazi, or they'll come to my husband and they'll do Jangan Lazi, because they're not used to seeing women flourish, right? We're in a culture, in a society where if a woman is vocal or has this, you know, strong persona, she becomes almost like a threat for her husband, not to our husbands, but to the outside world. Now, let's say we're not talking about social media because not everybody's relating to social media. Let's talk about careers. I remember when I was becoming a physician assistant, and people would come up to my husband, and I'm sure they probably do until now, I don't know, but this is back in the days. And they would literally scare him because my husband is a barber, and here I am becoming a PA. It's almost like, be careful. Once your wife has a career, oh, watch out. That's it. She's not going to need you anymore. So I think this type of stigmatism, right? Like where people will have this like stereotype of if a woman has a career or if a woman has a status or if a woman has money, we got to fear that woman. Now, what people don't realize, let's take it to a different level, okay? For example, infidelity. If somebody's looking to not be, committed to their spouse, as much as we say the phones are bad and everything is bad, which is true, somebody who's looking to do that is going to find a way to do that. Similarly, if a woman is meant to be the type to like rule over her husband and be superior to him, my opinion is whether she has a career, she's going to do it, or whether she has absolutely no degree, but her personality can be narcissistic, her personality can be very egotistic or stubborn. Okay, no offense to anyone, but there are certain criteria that a woman who doesn't have a humble personality, for example, is going to do it regardless of her status, her career, how much money she brings. So that whole, stigma behind it, where people have this fear, like especially males, they are afraid kind of to marry a woman or to be with a woman who has a little bit of a stronger personality. So as you're talking, it sounds very relatable because I could relate to that, where my husband, for example, never felt threatened by my, personal image or by my status or how much money I bring. But people would literally make these things where they would come up to him and give these little words like, just here, there, throw things.
These jabs, yeah.
Yeah, I don't, without realizing the consequence. Like eventually, no matter how much you try not to have an argument or not to be upset at each other, they do come home in a certain mood because outside people will have a few things to say, which is going to trigger them. So I think in general, it's a very wrong mentality if people feel threatened by the concept of a woman having a career or doing anything. Now, not to say, because we could take we can do this both ways. So like me and you, like we try to juggle between family, and you were talking about how you even turned down very special, things that you looked forward to all your life. You had to turn it down for the sake of family. Now there are, unfortunately, the other turn to it too, where we have a situation where people are not being treated equally or fairly. Like, for example, there can be men who are feeling that they're being, when a woman, for example, is in power or does have a career, there are certain men who do feel like they're being squashed. What would you say to that?
I agree with you 1000%. What you said of it doesn't matter. You don't have to be on social media. I think it's a personality thing. So the best analogy for that is like money. When people get into a big amount of money, all of a sudden, some people say, oh, money changes people. Money doesn't change people. Money exposes people. So if you had a lot of money and you were a cheap bastard before you got that money, you're not going to all of a sudden become generous. I promise you. You're going to be like that. You're going to die like that. Okay? That's just the way it is. You could be a very generous person. You could be poor, broke. You'll fall into a bunch of money. You're going to continue being a generous person. So the same thing applies here. You're going to, like I tell, and you're absolutely right, and I'm very transparent about this. We've, of course, argued or have had words over this topic. But, I told my husband, like, 3 kids later, I'm still here. Where am I going? Like, what do you think I am? A baby making machine? That's it. We had 3 kids. This is it. And this is why I also involve him, to make sure that he's aware, that he sees. I think that transparency is honesty is 2 different things. It's different for me to say to him, oh, today I was on Fox, I had a Gutfeld show, and I was home by 9 o'clock. The driver brought me home. Dinner's on the table. Transparency, I'm so sorry, I said that wrong. That would be transparency. I'm telling him exactly where I am, where I'm going, for what, who, what, when, where, why. So on как-то спокойно, whatever. And honesty would be him having to ask me, like, where did you go? And yeah, I could honestly answer, oh, I was doing this today. But he immediately might be like, well, why didn't you tell me this in advance? So I think it's very important to know that in your marriage, the dynamic that you have between your spouse. If you know your spouse needs to kind of have, he has questions or whatever, успокаивайте друг друга. Tell each other, keep it transparent. Once you give that, common serenity to your spouse, they kind of also know and understand. It's the same thing of like, if you're going to go out with your friends at night, right? It's just a girls' night, for example. Some husbands don't allow that. They'll say, oh, you can go do something. Respectfully, sir, when you go to work, she can do all kinds of things because she has a car. It's daytime. There's, believe me, if it's up to the person. Если человек будет, хочет, он это везде сможет делать. I used to tell that to my parents before I got married. I was 17, 18. I wanted to get out of prison sometimes. I'm like, guys, come on, and they're like, honey, sure, when you go get married, you can go to your parties. And I'm like, listen, my friend's 18th birthday party, and I had to have a conversation with my parents sometimes. Like, listen, if I wanted to do something bad, believe me, I would have done it a long time ago. You don't know. We can hide things. We can lie. You have to give me that trust. And, may my father rest in peace. He always kind of respected my strong mind, and he understood that I was the kind of person, if you say no to me, I'm just going to look at you and still go do what I need to do, because I'm just that kind of person. You're not going to tell me no because you said so, especially because I feel like I'm very capable. So he understood that he would need to build confidence into me in order to make sure that I was smart enough to say no in certain situations, and that I knew what's right and what's wrong. There have been, events where I was asked to come as Kamala Harris, and it was like an adult party. There was like a bachelor party once, and immediately, like, that's common sense. Of course, I'm not going to go there. That's asking for trouble. Obviously, that kind of party, they want a different kind of character. They were willing. It's not about money. You have to have integrity at the end of the day. So to that, I would say that, yes, you're going to have a strong personality, and you're going to have this issue with your spouse. You're still going to argue about things like this, but it's important to have transparency with them, and it's important to keep them involved. My husband had the time of his life when we went to Mar-a-Lago. He got to see, wherever he at the time of his life, like for him, this was like, listen, this is crazy. This is great. And some people tried to like put that down. Like they were like, almost like, oh, I can't believe this. And he was just like, what are you talking? Like, what are you saying? Like, so thank God he's on the same spectrum as me when it comes to that, because sometimes I just feel like people are just such killjoys. Like they want to take away the joy from it by creating like a negative thing. So that's why, you just have to take things that people say with a grain of salt, especially the ones that do jungle. People, if they do that to my face, I will rip them and tear them apart into shreds. But they're smart enough to probably do it behind my back. They do it when the boys are, outside having a cigarette, whatever it is. Men find their way to come in and say their thing. The thing that I'm smart in understanding is that's my number one, retort, that, listen, just because don't project your failures or whatever it is onto me. Your marriage is yours. I don't have an opinion on do I say to you, why isn't your wife making challah on Thursdays? Do I say that to you? Почему я не видела у нее тесто под ногтям? Я что-то не поняла. Что происходит? You see, I don't do stuff like that. So I expect the same exact respect towards me. That's unfortunately not realistic. It's not going to happen. I take it with a grain of salt. People like that, I'm like, okay, молодец, turn around, go to your corner, have your lipyoshka, and, live your life. I don't know why you're obsessed with me. Why are you obsessed with me?
I really want to hear your opinion on this. Again, as you're talking, things are coming. This is very curious. The other day, I went to dinner with my friends, and we got into this conversation, totally off topic, okay? Viewer discretion, this is totally off topic, but I want to hear your opinion, okay? This is going to be very controversial. Some people may agree to this, and some people may not agree to this. I have a very strong opinion about this, but before I give you my thoughts, I want to hear yours. So we're out eating dinner with friends, and we get into this conversation about having cars for our children. And basically, our friend tells me that he got a certain type of car for his child. Happens to be a luxury car, okay? It could be a Cadillac, it could be a Mercedes, it could be a BMW. It doesn't matter at this point what the company of the car was. Now, I have a very strong, and I mean like really strong, I don't have strong opinions about a lot of things, but I have strong opinions about this particular topic, where I'll tell you in a second what my opinion is. And then I asked this friend, what is the need for this child to have this car at a certain age? And the answer I got was, ну пускай он тоже чувствует, что он человек. So my answer was, Oh, so until you got your card, то не чувствовал, что ты человек. So you only became a person when you reached the status of having this car. So until then, you didn't consider yourself to be a person. And it kind of was like, it didn't sit well with me. And I have a very strong opinion about it. I'll share that in a minute. But what is your opinion, Esther? Because I know that you also, like myself, even though I don't know you too well, but from just from getting the vibe, I could see you being very morally, culturally, ethically of a good person. You you look like somebody who was raised. I met your mother, very cute woman. So I could totally see that you have, even though you're in the public eye and there's so many people that know you, you were really raised as a right way, you know? So what what are your thoughts of parents? And I'm not judging people. I'm just trying to understand where we are headed. Because before you answer that, I'm going to put a stop. I get another phone call on Friday. A woman is asking me if I want to be a matchmaker. So I asked her, she's a matchmaker. Why are you asking me? And she said, because there is a shidduch crisis, which means that there is a crisis amongst our young generation where they're not getting married. And we are trying to recruit as many matchmakers as possible. And since you know people in the community, you would be a good resource as a matchmaker. And then I said, what do you think is the problem? Why are youngsters not getting married? So she told me one of the things, people are looking to make a certain amount of money and the fear of commitment. But from what I gathered, it was more of like boys, men, especially, it's the fear of, can I support my wife? And why would I jump into it? I got to earn a certain amount of money first. So they're kind of delaying the process. So when you put the two and two together, we have parents who are buying very luxury, expensive brand name cars for their children at age 16 and a half, 17. 18, whatever, and then you have a crisis, a real crisis in our own midst where we're having young singles not wanting to be married or being afraid to take the step. I put the two and two together and I see a big problem with this. So I know I said a mouthful here. I'm sure you've got your thoughts together as I was speaking. What are your thoughts? And please, if whoever's watching, I want to hear your thoughts as well. What are your thoughts about this concept of having our children from a very young age be exposed to such luxury lifestyles?
I'm going to probably get a lot more controversial than you because I feel very strongly about this topic myself. So I can tell you right now that,
I don't know what you were going to answer, by the way, but
yeah, I'm sure.
Go ahead.
So, I come from very humble beginnings, and there's also a big balance here. So I work very hard. I've worked very hard for a very long time. I've actually had my first job from 11 years old. I worked at a bagel shop. Shout out to Zoya if you're ever listening. From 11 to 13, 14, I worked there. Then I went to Bagelette. Shout out to, Isaac and Sam. All in the community. All really, really hard jobs. Waitressing, catering, look really, really nitty gritty work. And my parents, they allowed it because they wanted us to know the value of $1. Now, we all as Baharians come from very, very humble beginnings. There was a very big cultural shift. Когда мы в Советском Союзе все были, мы все на одном были уровне. Поэтому мы все друг друга помогали подняться. Когда мы сюда приехали, и мы стали немножко здесь уже потихонечку подниматься, уже это мой generation, I could say. I'm 36 now, so I was 4 when I came here. Наши родители, наши все данные, they sacrificed luxuries in order for us to have things because they were in survival mode. Baharians have not been in survival mode for a very long time. And they confuse this feeling of status with brands because they want to make it appear as if they've made it. Now, what that person said to you, я хочу, чтобы он тоже почувствовал, что он человек, это очень-очень неправильно. Потому что that seems to me like that is a devoid, upbringing. You're not teaching your child confidence by buying them brand names. You're teaching them, first of all, nothing. You're teaching them no value on that dollar amount. It is unnecessary. The same exact thing I could tell you about our girls. I'm going to tell you right now, I have no filter. Я буду говорить как есть. Они просто от жира бесятся, okay? They want to be flown out. And I don't blame the young generation. I blame their parents, которые чересчур хорошее здесь увидели. Я знаю столько много родителей, которые такие большие дома, and, they're always on vacation. Who's watching the kids? oh, I deserve this. It's my turn to relax. Okay, fine. But then you come to me, you have a problem with drugs and you had no idea how your kid started this. A lot of these households, they don't have their priorities in order, and it's because of crap like this. Because they think that it's important to look rich rather than be rich in actual values, actual integrity. Now, this also comes to the other side of things. When money comes too easy, it's very easy to start showing these kinds of things. I'm sorry, but if you're doing pharmacy fraud and you're driving down my block with a Mercedes, you're an idiot because you shouldn't be so loud. When you're loud, you're making too much noise. So it's bad enough that you want to steal. Fine. You want to steal for a living? That's your problem. You're going to go to prison, not me. And eventually all you morons get caught. You're not teaching your child anything except there's an easy way to get millions. Okay, whatever. I'll go to prison for a little while. I can tell you right now, I did reform work with some children that are in very bad situations because daddy was in prison for 5 or 6 years. These homes become completely shattered. So these people don't understand the consequences of their actions. They're too busy with dollar signs in their eyes because that's what they think is the ultimate goal. So unfortunately, and it's not just our Baharians, I'm not, putting anyone down. It's also the people that maybe are on, the jewelry side of things, or just people in general where money is coming too easy. You shouldn't be investing into brands. You shouldn't be investing into your children. In what sense? Invest into life insurance. Okay, invest into properties, invest into trust funds, give your children an education, an appropriate one, maybe take a class, travel, go spend some time in a country. If you really have FU money like that, what are you doing wasting it on only APs? Listen, I like nice things, don't get me wrong. When I work really, really hard, I will take a sum of my money and I will maybe get myself a really, really nice gift, something that's within my own, and I've had people actually call me out on this. I've had girls in our community, because girls can be very catty, and I've had them, kind of put me down, like, что ты как нищая одеваешься, like, in some of your videos, like, you do this, you do that. I laugh at them. Because for me, it's like, you don't know how to pinpoint or bring me down. In your eyes, I have to have a big Chanel on my chest in order for you to think that I have value. But in my eyes, you're a joke because your brain is empty. You have nothing to offer to this world, but at least you got your filler done and you have a CC on your chest. What are you teaching your daughter? Губы раздула, брови уже вот такие. I mean, I'm sorry, просто от жира бесится. You want to get a little bit of work done, чтобы аккуратненько. Listen, I told you, getting me on live is very dangerous. Если я буду говорить как есть.
Listen,
but this is a reality.
You have the right to say whatever. Listen, you're your authentic self, and that's reality. You see, finish your statement, then I'm going to tell you my version of the right thing.
I'm not putting anyone down. I'm not judging. If you want to get a little work done, you want it to be tasteful. Forget I even mentioned Botox. Oh my God, I'm going to get attacked for this. But my point is that the priorities are not there. Don't be so self-absorbed with only looks. Don't be so absorbed with only brands. There was an article that came out recently. Christian Dior was caught in Italy for the amount of money that they're actually really spending to make their bags. They sell these bags for $3,000, $4,000. The reality is they're made in China for $50. I always knew this. My father was very smart. When we came to this country, он мне это в голову просто, like, he drilled it into all our brains. Because when we were little, we would see other people with nice stuff, nice clothes, brand names. Нам всем это хотелось. It's a normal thing to want. It was like, Pop, how come they go and have like nice vacations or whatever? My father drilled it into our heads that it's not about these brands. This is a lie. Это обман. Он всегда нам это объяснял и говорил, слушай, тебе лучше образование хорошее получить, do something meaningful in this world, stay true to yourself, но ты будешь спокойно ночью спать, and you're going to be a hero in the eyes of your children. For me, there's nothing more rewarding than my child telling his friends, yo, my mom is incredible. My mom is amazing. My father works his ass off. They both together, they work hard in order for me to have a nice life. And I'm so happy that my child sees it that way. And we've already had these conversations with my children. They've asked for things that are completely, out of control. And I say, no, my son wanted like the newest iPhone. I said, over my dead body. It's not necessary. Your friends have it. I don't care. And I always tell my child for that, be a leader. Don't be a sheep. That is sheep mentality. So unfortunately, our people, they compete with one another. So one person sees, a Mercedes that this guy got his wife. Oh, я тоже хочу. This guy got a pool in the backyard. Я тоже хочу. Like I said, nothing wrong with getting nice things. Don't overvalue that as your entire life and existence. It's nonsense. And don't you dare look down on other people, которые не живут как ты. I can guarantee you that most of these people, они так хорошо и благополучно своих детей замуж отдают и женят своих дочерей. А
Yes.
вы тупые, которые свои свадьбы играют, $1 миллион кидают в ветер. Через 6 месяцев эти пары, они разводятся. A lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them. Что вы добились с этим? What did you prove? That you can throw a good party? That's
How
all
old,
you proved.
how old is your oldest?
My oldest is 12.
Okay. So you have a little bit of time. I'm going to tell you what I'm going through, okay? So my oldest is 19. Boy, you know what it is for a parent, and I'm not taking pride, and I'm not saying this because I want people to clap for me. I'm just giving a real life like situation. How hard it is for a parent. Like for me personally, I always valued education. Of course, that doesn't mean that those who are educated are rich. You see, we're living in a mentality right now where our youth wants fast money.
Yes,
It's not just money. They want fast
that's
money.
true.
Like we're not talking about let's build an empire, let's make it happen, let's put away a couple of $100 a week or 1,000, whatever. Let's just live a comfortable life. That's not good enough. The youth now wants to earn a certain amount by a certain age, and if you don't get to that, you're a failure. And they also have this mentality, they're being so brainwashed, and I really find it to be a brainwash by their peers, okay, young adults, guys especially, I don't know so much about the girls, where there's new concepts coming out, right? Like cash advance, and there's other like very fancy schmancy things. Like people think I'm old-fashioned. Maybe I am old-fashioned. Okay, I don't look at life like that. I'm not really much of a risk taker, but that's fine. It got me where I am today, so something is not so wrong with that. Now, when you talk to your children nowadays about education, it's very difficult because they're living in a society of friends who believe that it's a waste of time. And we were always raised and taught that education is a priority. Even if you never use it, get your license. Never use it a day of your life, but you got it, you worked for it. That's what's important. We were always taught that way. So here I am getting my son a car. Happens to be, it's not a new car. It's not a fancy car at all.
It's his first
It's a
car. It shouldn't be. Yeah.
used car for a teenager who's learning how to drive. Now, when my son comes to me, and the reason I'm sharing it is because any parent who's watching, and I don't consider myself to be, I don't consider myself to be poor where I can't afford it, right? We have careers. We can also make and meet and afford. Everybody can just,
It's a
take
lease. Yeah,
money
everybody
they
can
don't
get one.
have
Yeah.
and just like pay up. We can all portray that kind of lifestyle, right? And when my son comes up to me and says, can I get myself XYZ car? My reasoning behind saying no was as follows. I said, look, let me ask you a question. I said, you're not married right now. So you're a single guy, no bills, no responsibility. Yeah, you're going to afford that luxurious car. For you to pay $500-600 a month on a lease is not going to be difficult because that's all you're spending it on. You don't have to pay rent. You don't have to pay anything. So what's going to happen? You're going to go from a level of promotion. You're on a high right now. Everything is going well for you. Then you get married. Bills come in, tuition comes in, life comes in. And what? You're going to go to become demoted? So how is that going to look for your self-esteem at that point? And if you don't want to get demoted, you don't want to go from, I drove this car, now I have to go this car. You're going to have to now really take from what you don't have just to compete with yourself because going down in life is going to be very difficult. I said, how about we do the reverse? Yes, you drive this inexpensive car, and maybe it's not going to be the most fanciest, and maybe your friends may make fun of you, but wouldn't you feel better in life if you climbed up a ladder and grew rather than fall down the ladder? And now people may look at me, like some parents, and say that's the wrong attitude. Well, why should our kids have to fall down the ladder? But God is going to, absolutely. But unfortunately, not everybody has rich parents. And not everybody has the capabilities of earning a lot of money. It's just not realistic. Not every single, like especially if you're an honest hard worker, and I'm not saying people are doing fraud, but if you really, especially in the American life that we live, it is very hard to be very rich, especially if you have to pay taxes. A lot of the money we earn go to taxes. It is very hard in America to have a very well-paying job and be rich. It's just very, very hard. So a majority of people will have it very hard. So back to the shidduch crisis. If we're teaching our children that the value of who they are is solely based on what type of belt they wear, what type of coats they wear, what type of shoes they wear, what type of car they drive, and we're teaching them that you being somebody equals ABC, then how do we expect our children to find a girl that they're going to find is compatible with them? They're going to also have very high expectations. When they go on dates, they're looking for the Mercedes Benz of all girls. Like, it's like, well, she's got to be here. What do you mean she has flaws? What do you mean she has imperfections? And then when the wedding comes, you know, like back in the days, I always say the story and I joked when I had my bouquet of flowers, I was so young. And when they asked me, what kind of flowers do you want? I could care less. The stupidest thing, they spray painted my flowers on the day of my wedding. It's not normal. So my whole wedding dress got stained with color. Thank God the photographer told me to white out. I literally whited out my dress. But back in the days, our eyes were so closed. We didn't even care what flowers. We didn't even have a choice. Now, does that mean that our marriages are worse because we didn't choose the glamorous flowers and we didn't choose those glamorous dresses? And my engagement ring, what I'm still wearing, is a very simple engagement ring because at the end of the day, we lost simplicity of life.
Yeah.
We have no simplicity. And it's very shameful because even though people are pinpointing social media people and that they're wasting their time and they're this and they're that, I think the real problem of our generation is the way we're living behind closed doors. Is what are we teaching our children? Because like you said, we're immigrants. All of us, most of us are immigrants. We've immigrated to this country and our parents really made ends meet, and we applaud ourselves for being able to have climbed that ladder as English was our second language. But our kids are not immigrants. They are born here. And we are really not doing them a favor if we're spoon feeding them and we're teaching them this life that your value in life is solely based on how much you're worth, what you drive, what you wear. It's wrong. And I don't know if that's ever going to change, but it's a scary world and it needs to change. It has to change because if it doesn't change, there's going to be a lot of problems.
I think the whole world is dealing with that, and social media is very, very fake. I always tell people, you know, don't believe everything you see and don't feel, you know, I have a friend who told me one time, you know, I see sometimes, you know, you guys, you know, I saw a picture of you, like she just, you know, offhand mentioned, oh, I saw you guys were out somewhere. You guys look so happy. And she started venting to me a little bit about her own issues. And I looked at her and I'm like, are you under the impression that you saw one social media image of this couple and that couple and you're telling me that I looked good and it made you feel so much worse about your own situation? Listen to me, I'm like to her. Social media is a lie. You don't know. Everybody has baggage. Everybody has problems. Nobody doesn't have problems. You know, a good friend of mine told me one time, if you took all your problems and you told all the people around you that you don't know what's going on in their life, and all of you had to bring your problems in a bag to a table, and you were allowed to get anybody else's problems that you could, all of you put the bag down, you're all going to snatch your own problems right back, and you're going to get the hell out of there because you're going to say, oh my God, everybody has problems. That's why they sometimes say misery loves company. Sometimes people want to find out what your problems are so they can feel better about theirs. So what I will say to that is that it's the same lie. They want to show this status that they don't possess. They really don't possess this. Like, it's not even about showing brands. They want this level of respect that they think this level of brand brings, right? So I'm, you know, and this is no hatred, no jealousy, no nothing. Some people do very well for themselves. And if they want to afford really nice luxuries for themselves, go ahead, go for it. You deserve it. You worked hard for it, whatever it is. But to put that on children, you're really doing them a disservice because once they can't obtain that at a young age because they're already used to having it handed to them, they immediately have destroyed confidence and self-esteem, and they're filled with self-doubt because they're going to say, oh my God, если я не могу такую машину потянуть, или я не могу на такие, you know, vacations брать свою девочку or whatever, and she already expects this because I already kind of pretended like I got it like that. I have an $800 lease I can't really afford, but I'm driving it because I like this car and it's nice, but this is starting to add up, and that's where the pressure sets in. And I'm relating all of this to like, you know, I'm not even a social worker or anything, but there's so many boys that I spoke to that were in the drug problem that this was the number one thing that they said. I feel too much pressure from my parents about getting married, about what I have to produce, how much the wedding is going to cost, how am I going to feed another girl? Plus she's going to get pregnant right away. You know, like, this is just too much for me. I don't know if I can do it. And that's what pushes them to fast money. So it's a very vicious cycle. And I think that наши родители сами должны перестать это так сильно давить. It's a competition thing. It all goes back again to competition. You know, I understand it too. It's a devil's advocate here because, you know, one day I'm going to do a wedding for my son. I'm not saying this so that I'm going to eat my words tomorrow. I guarantee you somebody will say, "Ничего тогда, ты, значит, не будешь со своим сыном делать или whatever, like a салат или большой." You can make it tasteful without spending time. My point is, like, I'm not going to break the bank to convince you or impress you and make you feel that, like, oh, look how much money we have. If anything, I tell people, like, they tell me, like, oh, you live in a house. I'm like, I live in a problem. This is debt. This is maintenance. This is more shit to clean. I don't know where this idea came that, like, oh, you know, все, у тебя дом, it's great. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. This was the dream to own property. You come to America, you know, you whatever. But I always tell people, why are you not looking at the other side of things? Sometimes I very much regret that we were so young. We bought a house. Yeah, it's great. It's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's nice. You host. You have a lot of people. Your kids are running around. You have a backyard. It comes with its own slew of problems. There's a lot, you know, mommy and daddy aren't paying the mortgage. Mommy and daddy aren't, you know, dealing with the flooding. When we had flooding, we had to just show up with 40 grand somehow and have that problem fixed immediately. It is not easy, and it's real life. So what people don't realize is that, you know, impressing people is the dumbest thing you can do. Nobody cares. This is, if you're listening and if there's any takeaway from this, I can tell you right now, nobody cares what you have and what you don't have. Maybe they'll care for like a split second if they see you. I'm like the opposite of this. Somebody will see me at a wedding and I'll be wearing a dress and a girl will say, "I love your dress." I'm like, $13. $13, I got this steal. That's a flex for me. Yeah, I just got a banging dress that it looks like couture. You had no idea how much I spent on it. I'll even go as far as sending you the link on Amazon. I find no shame in that. Why would I be ashamed? When I need to, believe me, I will put on the jewelry that I want to put on, that I got from, you know, from here, from there. I will. It just, for me, you know, my mind doesn't work that way. If I want to look good and I go out somewhere and it's like a really expensive place and I want to go decked out, or if it's like a family event and I want to buy a nice couture, I will absolutely do that for myself. But it is not to prove to somebody, look at me, I got it like that. No, it's for me. I deserve this. I worked hard. That's why I'm now enjoying it. It takes all the joy out of it when you're force feeding it down people's throats or you're trying to show something. I remember I was at a restaurant one time with my husband and with taksmialis because there was a guy who was sitting like this. He was doing everything in his power for the entire restaurant to see his watch.
Oh.
So he was like doing all these, like, you know, these things on vratnik. So, you know, in my head, I'm like, did you get the watch for us or did you get it for yourself? You enjoy the watch. Если он бы вот так на это смотрел и говорил бы, блин, я тебя люблю. You know what? Good for you. You worked hard for that watch. You're in love with your watch. Good for you. That watch makes you happy. You earned it. You deserved it, unless you do pharmacy fraud. But if you're doing the hard work, you earned it. You deserved it. And I say this because it's like, do it for yourself. Вы никого не убедите ни с чем. So if you're building those houses, build them for yourselves. Don't do it for people to believe that you have some kind of status. And then when you do marry your children and they see a completely undisciplined child and there's a divorce 7-8 months later, and you know they feel like they've been bamboozled, that's because you're not investing into the correct thing. You're not investing it. So like I said, I feel very strongly on this topic as well, but I'm also, you know, like, it's okay, I have nice things. There has to be diplomacy here. There has to be an even thing. My whole takeaway, you know, my kids are still small, so I don't, what is going on? I don't know.
Facebook is liking what you're saying.
Yeah, man. So, you know, my whole thing is that, you know, we came to this country, our parents sacrificed. Like, my parents never went on vacation. We couldn't afford it, and they never took us on vacation. So for me, I enjoy vacations that much more. And me and my husband, when we took our kids a couple of times, we saw that they were not appreciating certain things. Guess what? They're not going on vacation anymore anytime soon until they don't learn to appreciate it. But not only that, it's like, it's not necessary for them. You know what? Like, you don't need to go on vacation 2-3 times a year. This is for me to go away and to relax a little bit. You know, like, I earn this. The same goes as like when I get a cleaning lady, and I'll do it rarely, I make it my business to tell her, you are not to fold my children's clothes. They do their own chores. You're here to help me, because I put myself in a situation where I girl bossed too hard and now I have 2 full-time jobs. So you're here to help me and make my life easier. You're not here to, you know, pick their noses for them and wipe their asses for them. That is completely unacceptable for me. Same goes with the tutor. You don't hire a tutor to do the work for your child. They're there to assist. So I make sure that my children, or I hope to make sure that my children learn and understand that mommy and daddy work really, really hard for everything that they have. And you have to now make your mark in this world. Figure out what you want to do with your life. Make sure you love what you do, because you're going to work hard for everything that you do. You want, and I always tell my son, like, if he even sees something that my husband puts on, I go, you want nice things? Papa works his ass off 6 days a week and stands on his feet 12 hours a day. That's why he gets to have that. He didn't get that because somebody handed it to him. So why should he hand it to you? And my child already understands that, because I'm not going to hand him just any, like big. And I actually had this conversation recently with my brother. I had a big fight with him. He got a Gucci belt for my son. It was actually a belt that he got for himself. It was too small. Oh, I gave your son this. I said, excuse me? I took it back. My son was furious. He was upset with me over it. I don't care. I had to talk with my brother about it. And I explained to him, зачем ты ему такие вещи даешь? Мне не надо, чтобы он показушник был. And I don't want my children to be sheep. I want them to be wolves. I don't follow along to all these trends. Do you know how many people, and again, I'm going to bring this up because to piggyback off of what I said earlier, no shame to anybody that does Botox. That wasn't my point. My point was to the women that are like excessively doing it just because it's a trend, and it's to the point where they're just no longer beautiful. And that's my honest opinion. Some of them are just overdoing it. If you want to look good, go for it. If it gives you confidence, if it's a mommy makeover, whatever it is, you need that to have confidence, and you're going to live for another 40, 50 years. You can afford it. You have a good doctor. Why not go for it? It's empowering. I'm sure it's good for your marriage, whatever it is. My whole thing is like, I've had people approach me, it comes with the territory. You should get it. You need it here. You need it there. Come to my place. I know that they're trying to upsell me. I get that it's their business. I'm very confident enough to say, like, I don't think I need this. First of all, I'm very animated. My face is what landed me here in the first place. If I start making it frozen, like Kim Kardashian, like this, then I will no longer have an impression career, okay? It's not me. And I've said it very respectfully. And I've had some people get pissed off. Oh, you're one of those, the обсуждаешь. I'm like, listen, if you want to look like Hamas's asshole, that is up to you. That is your right. I don't think that it's right that your lips look like they're inside out, because they literally look like a butthole now, okay? It's not me. I don't like it. You like it? Ты иди делай. Иди кали сколько хочешь. Здесь в уши делай. Whatever. Это твоя проблема. Твоему мужу нравится. That's fine. I'm very strong in my beliefs around that. Maybe one day I will do Botox. Maybe one day I'll get tired of the wrinkles or whatever. But aging is a part of the beauty of what is human life. And like I said, I'm very grateful that I've had parents that instilled into me my own confidence of like, don't be a sheep. I was never, I used to be a follower. So for me, this is very important. I want to share this. Like, I didn't just become this person with like this very strong mind. I was literally the opposite of everything I'm preaching right now. I used to be one of those followers. Like, if my friends said something, I was stupid enough to listen to them, even if it, disadvantaged me because I wanted to impress them or I wanted them to like me. It's normal. It's normal to kind of have that growing up. What is important is to recognize it, correct it, and try to pass it down to your children.
Right.
So when I was young and I tried to do, the Spanish lip liner, because that's what I saw in the movie Selena, and I loved the way her lips looked. I looked like a chuchula when I did that because I was 16 years old and it wasn't appropriate on my face at the time. So мы все как-то в одном возрастном хотели подражать. Все пацаны хотят красивую машину. It's normal to want that, but it's important to, you want it, then earn it. Figure out, sure. For me, like, people ask me like, oh, why did you do this? Why did you do that? I got myself into every single door that I'm in right now. I single-handedly, without a manager, without an agent, just by networking, using my personality, no overhead, no budget. I invested the time and the confidence that it took to get here. And that's why I tell people, like, you have no idea what you're capable of if you put your mind to it, because not only am I a female, I'm a Bahraini Jewish female. Okay, we all know what that means. It's very, very difficult to do things like this in the public light, being married, giving attention to your children. Mm-hmm. And I reiterate this because it creates a very strong foundation, and that's the entire purpose of this. I'm not doing this for stardom and notoriety. That unfortunately comes with the territory. I'm doing it for a completely different reason, and I want my children to see the hard work. So one thing that I let my son do, when I started getting social media famous, my son said to me, oh my God, Mom, let me open a YouTube channel. I could kill it. I could this. I said, da, you think it's easy? Okay. I didn't discourage him. I didn't say, no, I didn't do any of that. I said, open the channel, go ahead, post a video. He's into soccer, so it was not videos of him. He did some soccer clips. He got 13 views. He posted another video, 17 views. He's like, damn, Mom. So how long I got to do this? And I said, so then that's when I said, if you love this and you're ready to dedicate blood, sweat, and tears and actual years before you even see a penny, then that's what it's going to take. And I even showed him my numbers. I said, I made no money from year 1 to 2 to 3. That is the process. It's not an easy game to get into because you have to stay consistent to see any kind of end result. And I think that speaks to a lot of different businesses. If you're a business owner, you're not going to see profit until you really, 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 really crack into it. So the same thing goes with parenting. You have to give and give and give and continue to make them have their own path so that they can be winners. Stop being followers. And our community has a big problem. They are such competitive people. Like I said, we had humble beginnings in Russia. Все на одном уровне были. Сейчас все друг друга как-то хотят вот на перегонки, кого-то стараются отбивать, you know, like, а моя дочка так делает, а мой сын такой, а мой, like, they're doing it almost like to put the other person down, to bring themselves, it shouldn't be that way. Support each other, help each other, and stop it with the like, oi, on dom kupil, like, oi, like, you know, like, it's stupid. It's really stupid. You're not giving your children any value when you're doing that. You're setting them up for failure. You're setting them up for big time failure. It's like giving them a social media account, having them follow all the celebrities and showing them that lifestyle and telling your child, okay, now you go obtain that, figure it out. They're not going to know how to do that because that's only the 1% of the world. So everything that our children are seeing, like you said, this fast money economy, they're seeing a life of lies on Instagram. And let me tell you, I met some of these liars, not Baharian. Some of these people that have millions of followers on Instagram, they drive Porsches, they own yachts. It's fake. They rent out some of these cars. The yachts are like, hey, this is my boss's barber. He knows us. We can do a shoot on the yacht. And I'm like, hang on a second. I actually came here thinking you're a big deal. Я говорю, наверное, I'm a bigger deal than you.
That's funny.
And that is the reality, though, of the game and of the industry. And the same thing goes with talent. You meet people and you assume that they're like some kind of they're human. That's what gave me the confidence to be like, я не хуже, чем все эти, all these people. I'm not any worse than them. If anything, I actually bring a superpower with me because I'm an immigrant. And as a Jewish immigrant, I just feel like we have that hustle in our blood. So, you know, I would bring my experience with me. And I learned very quickly that, like, listen, we are all capable of greatness. It just depends on where you want to put your feet. Do you want to look great? Do you want to pretend to be great? Or do you want to actually put in the time and do something and be great?
Love it. I think we covered a very, very important topic, and I hope that there are parents or even children that are watching. We're going to wrap it up, but again, there weren't that many comments today.
I don't think I saw any comments, if I'm being honest.
I'll tell you why. Everyone is so tuned in to what you got to say.
My mom always tells me,
they have nothing to add. It's almost like, let's hear this. Let's not get distracted. So they really, I guess, were enjoying it, listening.
I hope so.
And I appreciate the fact that you're all tuned in and you're watching. And you know what, Esther? I really admire you. You know, the first time when you went on like Fox or one of those news stations, I was so proud that a fellow Bukharian, like it made me feel like, I don't know, like you're my sister or someone, because we're so related, right? Like as Bukharians, when we see a fellow Bukharian going into these like American platforms, it's very special. And we really come a long way. And that's why I applaud you. It's not easy to get to where you got. And you do so much behind the scenes for the community. And you're very humble. Like I remember when you came to my house, and even though online you can portray to be this, you know, tough cookie and, you know, this strong persona, but in reality, you're so humble and you're so genuine, and I love that. And that's what makes someone very unique and special. For example, when we decided to go live today, you could have easily been like, oh, I'm so busy and, you know, like hard to get, right? But you're not. You're so down to earth, and it's very, very admirable. And I really wish we had more people like that in the community, because that's the difference. We can have millions and millions of dollars and go ahead, have the money. It's a blessing. Why not?
Yeah,
but the
absolutely.
most important thing is somebody's integrity and somebody's personality. Not everything is meant to be flaunted. And how are you behaving as a person behind all this? If you have the money and the status and the richness and the reputation, and you can continue to be a down-to-earth, humble person, that's beautiful. You're helping people, and why not? But when a person feels like they're hard to get and they make themselves like, you know, like I'm better than you, that's a turnoff. it's really a turnoff. And thank you so much for being who you are. Thank you for your authenticity. Thank you for sharing so much tonight. Being raw, being honest, not sugarcoating anything. And yes, some people will get offended. They can get offended from what I say. They can get offended from what you say. But if we're going to say things for like what we think people want to hear, that's not being real. It's not being relatable. You're not gonna if you're going into any field, whether let's say you're a PA or a pharmacist or a barber or whatever field you're in, and you're simply doing your job as a robot, then you're not doing the job. In order to really fulfill your job, you have to be truthful and honest about it. Like, not every customer is gonna like to hear what you have to say or like your service or like your attitude, but the ones who do like you, the ones who can relate to you, they'll stick with you. Those are your real, true followers. Those that are there just to troll, we don't need them in any part of our life. They can, slowly dissipate and go away, and we're going to be much more happier that way anyways. So thank you so much for tonight.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for the kind words. I feel exactly the same way about you. I think you're very raw, very honest.
Thank you.
You provide an incredible service to our community. You keep it real. And I think this is, I admire this. I think this is very important. This is why I have so much to say, because, I keep my pages comedy, but when I do get an opportunity to have like serious conversations like this, it's just so important because, first of all, I want to shed this light on myself that I am a human. I'm not a cackling hyena. I don't, that's an impression. It's just a character. It's not, I've even had people approach me like, как ты можешь ее копировать? Вы должны за Трампом быть. And I'm like, you're so stupid because you obviously didn't listen to the content. Like, I'm trolling her. But, it's you can't judge. People will have their own perception. Maybe there's a language barrier. We have to be nicer, but for the most part, everything I've done has been very well received. I admire, a lot of what you do. And I'm so grateful that most of our community has been very, very loving. And they've been very proud that I've been able to get to these accomplishments. So, I'm very humbled myself. And my mom always tells me, like, don't do anything to embarrass me because, you're always being watched now. Ты должна, осторожно быть, всегда скромной оставайся. And really, I'm not here to embarrass myself. I would never do something to embarrass my kids, but we're all moms. We're all Jews. And I think we all have, more or less the same mission in life. And I applaud you for doing a lot of this hard work. These conversations are very important. And when people listen, just that perspective can open a conversation in somebody's home and things can actually change because everything I've done in my life, I've led through law of attraction. So it's very important to open these conversations because sometimes it's just unknown. Maybe a parent listened today and said, I didn't realize that maybe getting him a Lexus was a bad idea. Maybe we shouldn't do that. Maybe we'll rethink that. So, even if one person takes anything we said and can apply it to their everyday life and just be their authentic self and not fall victim to so much stuff on social media, then I think it was a live well worth it. So again, thank you for the attention. Thank you for the time. And the next time I see you, I will give you a piggyback ride. For anyone that doesn't know, I'm about 3 times Yochevet's size.
Yes, she makes me look very short.
Yeah, the first time I saw you, I was like, whoa, okay, yeah, she's all the way down there. Yeah.
She's very tall. But Esther, before you go, we got to get a Kamala Harris joke here. Come on, you got to make us laugh.
Look, I'm retired now. I'm retired. I did what I had to do. But, I don't know if you know this. I know the Bahrain community is very well off, right? We just talked about it. A lot of you guys have pharmacy money. But, I'm missing $20 million. So, if you can just, Venmo me, that would be great. I can't laugh too loud because my kids are sleeping, but
we're gonna miss this though. We're gonna miss this because you know what?
Believe it or not, she's not going away. She's I do a lot of shows, and I was thinking that a lot of my contracts are gonna run out for this reason. I do iHeartRadio and I do a show on Twitter. I do all these crypto projects, and she's not going away. First of all, she might make a run for governor. And she's considering a 2028 presidential run. I have no idea who would ever push her after this humiliating loss. She's not going to be my only character, obviously, from now on. She was just a really hot one for, in the news cycle. But, stay tuned. I have a lot more up my sleeve. So we will see where this takes me.
Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.